Look at your garden right now in the heat of July. Chances are half of it has already quit on you. Spring flowers done, early perennials gone to seed, nothing but green. After 40 years of gardening, I can tell you it does not have to be this way. There are perennials that do not take a summer break. They bloom in June, through the worst of July and August heat, and keep going until the first hard frost. Non-stop, no gap, barely any work from you. Number 1 blooms in 6 weeks and never stops until frost. Number 6 is the plant I recommend to gardeners who have told me they are giving up on perennials because everything is too much work. Today I am giving you 11 of them. Plant even 3 or 4, and you will never look at a bare, tired summer garden again. Number 11, Salvia caradonna. The near black-stemmed purple salvia that opens the list because it is one plant every American gardener over 60 has walked past 100 times without understanding what it actually does. The first flush of tall purple spikes opens in late May and runs hard through late July. Most gardeners think the show is over at that point. Here is what nobody at the garden center will tell you. Deadheading the spent tips does not produce a second flush. That is the mistake I made for the first 3 summers I grew it. To get caradonna to bloom nonstop, you have to cut the whole plant back to about 3 inches of basal foliage right after the first flush finishes, all the way down. Water it in. 2 to 3 weeks later, a second flush comes up as tall and full as the first, running through mid-September in zones 4 through 8. The reason to specifically choose caradonna over the older May night comes down to those near black flower stems. In a mixed border where the surrounding perennials are all green and light, the dark stems read as intentional and dramatic. Every high-end designer specifies caradonna for that exact reason. Somewhere around 2015, I finally figured out the basal cutback rule by watching what a trial garden intern did with the salvia block. 3 inches all the way down. I have not lost a second flush since. Number 10, Coreopsis Zagreb, threadleaf tickseed with fine ferny foliage and small bright yellow star-shaped flowers that Mount Cuba Center listed among the top performers in their 3-summer Coreopsis trial. Zagreb opens in late June and produces continuous waves of yellow through hard frost. There is one management step that separates a good Zagreb bed from a great one, and it is not deadheading. When the plant looks tired in mid-July, take a pair of head shears and cut the whole plant back by 1/3, not the spent flowers, the whole plant, a full head shear haircut. 3 weeks later, Zagreb comes back covered in fresh yellow that runs through the first hard frost across zones 3 through 9. The other reason to plant Zagreb is that it spreads slowly by rhizome, forming a tight 2-foot yellow carpet in 3 years. It does not run aggressively the way older threadleaf strains did. And whatever you do, do not fertilize it. Rich soil produces floppy plants with sparse bloom. Lean soil and full sun give you the tight, upright, fluorescent yellow mound you actually want. Pair Zagreb with something purple or blue at the same height. Russian sage, Nepeta, or Agastache, and the yellow and purple combination reads as intentional design in any bed. I switched to Zagreb from an older threadleaf strain around 2014, could have been 2015. The difference in year 3 coverage was drastic. The older strain had spread and thinned itself. Zagreb stayed dense and tight through the same 3 summers. Number 9, Nepeta cat's Meow. Compact modern cat mint that finally solved the 2 problems every gardener had with Walker's Low. The older cultivar flopped open by July and self-seeded aggressively enough to become a weed. The first cloud of small lavender blue flowers opens in late May and runs about 6 weeks. Then, right when it looks tired in early July, shear the whole plant back by half, every stem. 3 to 4 weeks later, a second flush comes up and carries all the way to hard frost across zones 3 through 8. And unlike Walker's Low, cat's Meow is sterile. No seedlings colonizing the gravel path, no aggressive spread, just the plant you planted. 2 things worth knowing before you buy it. First, cats will roll in it. If you have a cat in the neighborhood, expect a small crushed spot in the plant every summer. Cats do not damage the plant long term, they just take a nap in it. Second, cat's meow stays at about 18 inches tall and 30 inches wide. It does not need staking, does not open in the middle after a July thunderstorm, and does not flop over the neighboring plants. That single breeding improvement is worth the modern price. The Chicago Botanic Garden Nepeta trial ran multiple cultivars against each other over 3 summers. Cat's Meow and Junior Walker were the two that stayed compact and reliable in year 3, when the older cultivars were already falling apart. Which of the first 3 is already in your garden and blooming this week? Drop the number and your U.S. date in the comments. Number 8, Shasta Daisy Becky, Perennial Plant of the Year winner from 2003, and still 2 decades later, the single strongest Shasta daisy in the American trade. Becky opens in late June, blooms hard through late August, and extends into September only if you deadhead correctly. Deadheading is the entire trick with this plant, and the technique matters. Do not just snip the spent flower head off at the top of the stem. Most gardeners do that. Follow the flowering stem down to the first side bud emerging from a leaf axil and snip just above that bud. That single technique, cutting to the side bud instead of the flower, extends Becky bloom by 6 full weeks compared to conventional deadheading. Stay on the weekly rhythm through July and August across zones 5 through 9, and Becky runs into September. The other thing worth knowing about Becky, it does not flop. Older Shasta daisy cultivars needed staking by mid-July because the 2-foot flowers fell over in the first thunderstorm. Becky holds upright on stronger 3-foot stems that stand through wind and rain without any support. The white is a pure white, not the ivory or cream you see in cheaper cultivars. Plant a mass of Becky in front of a dark green background, yew hedge, or evergreen shrub, and the white glows against the dark from 30 feet away. Number 7, Rudbeckia American Gold Rush, Perennial Plant of the Year winner from 2023, and the single plant that finally solved the 2 problems every gardener had with the older Goldsturm cultivar, septoria leaf spot and angular leaf spot, fungal diseases that turned Goldsturm brown and ragged by August in every humid summer. If you have ever grown black-eyed Susans and watched them go brown and mildewed by mid-August, this is your answer. American Gold Rush blooms hard from early July through late September without any intervention, no deadheading, no fungicide, nothing. The golden yellow daisies with dark centers open on tall stems, and the plant produces new flowers as fast as the old ones fade, right through hard frost across zones 4 through 9. It is genetically immune to both septoria and angular leaf spot. That single breeding improvement is why every trial garden in the eastern U.S. switched over. The other reason to plant it, American Gold Rush clumps, but does not run aggressively the way Goldsturm did. You can plant 3 in a triangle and know exactly where they will be in 5 years. The classic pairing is American Gold Rush with purple coneflower, yellow and purple, both blooming continuously through July, August, and September in the same bed. That combination is what every landscape designer specifies when a client asks for low-maintenance, non-stop summer color. Number 6, Geranium Rozanne, Perennial Plant of the Year winner from 2008, and separately, the RHS Plant of the Centenary, voted the single most influential plant introduction of the last 100 years. 2 of the highest honors in horticulture awarded to the same plant. Rozanne blooms continuously from early June through the first hard frost of October with 0 deadheading required. 0. That is the fact that makes this plant the closest thing to a set-it-and-forget-it non-stop bloomer in the American garden. And it is why I recommend it to gardeners who have told me they are giving up on perennials because everything requires too much work. The flowers are cool blue-violet with a small white center, about 1.5 inches across, opening in overlapping waves so the plant is always covered in fresh bloom. It sprawls to about 2 feet wide and 18 inches tall, weaving gently through neighboring plants without smothering them. The reason Rozanne blooms nonstop is that it is sterile. It does not set seed, so the plant is not diverting energy into seed production. It just keeps producing flowers all summer, everywhere from Zone 5 through Zone 8, and reliably into Zone 9 along the coasts. Unlike most hardy geraniums, Rozanne also tolerates real heat. Plants in Kansas and Oklahoma hold their bloom through 100-degree July heat, as well as plants in cool Vermont summers. That is the trade that finally made this plant essential nationally. If you plant nothing else on this list, plant 3 Rozanne. Quick word before number 5. There is more practical perennial garden design than fits in any one video. I gathered 40 years of it into a book at henrysgardensecrets.com. The book is the long version. I will not bring it up again. Now to number 5, Agastache Blue Fortune, also called anise hyssop. Any Agastache is going to earn its space in a perennial bed, but Blue Fortune is the workhorse cultivar. Every trial garden in the country ranks at the top. RHS, Award of Garden Merit. Chicago Botanic top performer, sterile so no seedlings colonizing the neighboring plants. Agastache produces vertical spikes of lavender blue flowers in continuous succession from mid-June through hard frost. 4 to 5 straight months. No deadheading required. The plant simply produces new spikes as the old ones finish, one after another, for the entire growing season across zones 5 through 10. In zones colder than that, protect the crown heavily in fall or treat it as an annual. The reason to plant it: if you have deer problems, deer do not touch it. Rabbits do not touch it. The strong minty anise fragrance in the foliage is what keeps them off. If deer pressure has been ruining your favorite perennials for years, Agastache is the answer. One thing that saves the plant every winter and that most gardeners get wrong: do not pile mulch around the crown of Agastache in fall. The plant needs a dry crown to overwinter successfully. Buried in wet mulch, the crown rots by March. If you garden in heavy clay or wet winters, use gravel mulch or coarse grit around the base instead of shredded bark. Hummingbirds work Agastache heavily. Bees and butterflies swarm it. Plant 3 near a garden path and watch what shows up over the course of a single September afternoon. Number 4, Russian sage, Coreopsis Zagreb. The taxonomists recently moved it to Salvia yangi, but the tag at most garden centers still reads Coreopsis. Same plant. Russian sage produces dramatic blue lavender flower spray on tall silver-gray stems from mid-July through late September, and often into October in mild fall zones. 3 to 4 months of continuous bloom with no deadheading, no pinching, no work. The plant just blooms through everything summer throws at it across zones 4 through 9. There are 3 things you have to know to grow Russian sage well, and all 3 run against gardener instinct. First, do not fertilize it, ever. Rich soil produces oversized floppy plants that split open in the first September thunderstorm. Poor soil, full sun, and no supplemental water once established. That is the recipe for the tight, upright 3-foot lavender cloud you actually want. Second, cut it back hard in early spring, down to about 6 inches above the ground every March, not fall. The stems are woody, and if you leave them uncut year after year, the plant grows lanky and open with bloom only at the tips. Hard March cut equals dense July bloom. Third, in zones 3, 4, and 5, Russian sage sometimes still flops open by August, even with the March cut. The compact cultivar Little Spire, about 2 feet tall instead of 4, solves that entirely. Same silver stems, same lavender flowers, tighter plant. Somewhere around 2011, could have been 12, I trialed Russian sage in 3 different soils in my Ohio garden: rich amended bed, average bed, and dry gravel at the edge of a driveway. The gravel bed plant was twice the size of the amended bed plant by August. That is the trade. Russian sage wants abuse. Number 3, Coneflower Magnus and Santa Fe, the classic purple coneflower that anchored every summer bed in every American suburb for 70 years. Mount Cuba Center's coneflower trial ranked Magnus at the top for reliability, consistency, and long-term performance across 3 summers of side-by-side testing, and I have not planted a different purple coneflower since. Magnus blooms hard from late June through hard frost, 10 straight weeks without any intervention across zones 3 through 9. The purple daisies open one after another on tall stems, and the plant keeps producing new flowers as fast as the old ones fade. One thing that separates real coneflower gardeners from the rest: do not deadhead the last flush in September. Leave the spent flower heads standing on the plant through fall and winter. 2 things happen. Goldfinches show up to work the seed heads in October and stay through the first snowfall. And the black seed cones on tall stems give you a garden silhouette against the snow that no ornamental grass matches. If you want a warm color companion to the classic purple, plant Santa Fe right next to Magnus. Santa Fe is Mount Cuba's top-performing orange-red coneflower, the modern cultivar that finally matched Magnus for reliability. Skip hot papaya. That one reverts to weak growth by year 2 in most beds. Santa Fe and Picabella are the 2 modern cultivars I trust for the long term. The purple plus orange combination of Magnus and Santa Fe in the same bed is the design pairing every trial garden in the country now uses to demonstrate what modern coneflower breeding can deliver. Number 2, Phlox Jeana, the Perennial Plant of the Year winner from 2024 and Mount Cuba Center's #1 performer across their entire garden phlox trial, beat 50 plus other cultivars for mildew resistance, bloom duration, and pollinator visits. Jeana produces large, fragrant lavender pink panicle heads continuously from mid-July through mid-September. 9 full weeks of nonstop bloom across zones 4 through 8. New flowers open as old ones fade, keeping the plant covered for the entire peak of summer. Deadhead the spent panicles, and you often get a lighter third flush into early October. Here is the fact that decided it for me. Jeana is Mount Cuba's #1 for pollinator visits, with 539 butterfly visits recorded in the trial versus 117 for the closest runner-up, 4 times the butterflies of any other phlox on the market. Plant Jeana for the fragrance, and you get the entire butterfly population of your neighborhood on it in September as a bonus. 2 rules eliminate almost every phlox problem the older cultivars gave a bad reputation for. Give Jeana 24 to 30 inches of airflow between plants, even mildew-resistant phlox mildews when crowded, and water only at the base, never overhead. Those 2 habits together eliminate 90% of the trouble. My grandmother grew phlox along the entire east side of her Ohio farmhouse from about 1952 through the mid-70s. She never called them by cultivar name. She called them the tall pinks, and she taught me to walk past that bed at 8 in the evening in July for the scent. That specific memory is what brought me back to garden phlox after 20 years of thinking the whole genus was too much trouble. Modern breeding, specifically Jeana, finally justified the return. If any plant on this list has already landed on your buy next spring mental list, tap the like button. Just once. The last plant is the one I would tell you to plant, even if you could plant nothing else on this list. Number 1, Gaillardia Arizona Sun, also called blanket flower, the single strongest heat-loving perennial on this list. And the plant I would tell you to buy this weekend if you were only going to buy one thing. I will be honest, I went back and forth on whether Gaillardia or Geranium Rozanne deserve the top slot. Rozanne has the longer bloom window with 0 work. Gaillardia takes #1 because it thrives in the poorest soil you have, in the hottest sun you can find, and blooms harder the worse you treat it. It is the plant that keeps going after every other plant on this list has given up on August heat. Gaillardia grandiflora Arizona Sun blooms from late June through hard frost, non-stop, across zones 3 through 10, the widest range on this entire list. The flowers are wheel-shaped, red at the center bleeding out to yellow at the tips, like small campfire wheels spinning across the bed. 2 feet tall, compact, no staking, no work. The rules for growing it well are the rules of neglect. Do not amend the soil for Gaillardia. Do not water it once it is established. Do not fertilize. Do not mulch it. Every attempt to make Gaillardia comfortable is an attempt to work against its biology. Plants I have grown in unamended clay at the edge of a gravel driveway have outbloomed and outlived every plant I have coddled in raised amended beds. One thing to know before you plant it: Arizona Sun is short-lived, 2 to 3 years per plant, but it self-seeds gently, so the patch renews itself without any effort from you. Do not weed out the small seedlings that come up around the original clumps. That is the plant giving you the next generation for free. 11 perennials. Plant even 3, and your July garden stops looking tired. Plant 6, and the whole bed keeps color from June through hard freeze. If you can only add 1 this weekend, add number 1. Gaillardia costs $8, blooms in 6 weeks, and outlasts everything else at the edge of the driveway. Drop your U.S. state and the number you are adding. The pattern tells me which shade version to cover next.